Welcome to Sheboygan Stories Unhoused and Unheard. I'm Scott Labonte, and I'm not just your host. I'm one of the people who helped start something we now call Sheboygan Area Pay It Forward. And this is how it all began. This podcast gives a voice to people who we so often walk past but rarely hear from, those experiencing homelessness here in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. But before we dive in to other people's stories, we thought we'd start by sharing our own. So I'm sitting here today with my wife, my partner in life, in this work, and in everything we've built with Sheboygan Area Pay It Forward. We've really never told the whole story like this before. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Let's start at the beginning. What was life like before all of this?
Oh my goodness. Gosh, where do I start?
Can I go back to even Madeline living in the UP?
Well, we're originally from the UP of Houghton, or UP. Start over. The UP of Michigan. We're up from the Houghton-Hancock area. Scott had 3 kids, and I had 3 kids when we got together. And now we raise our special needs granddaughter. So we got custody of Madeline when she was 11 months old in 2012. And we went from being, I guess, your everyday typical
Run-of-the-mill people.
Yeah, family to raising a very medically complex and fragile child. Everything changed. And we ended up with Madeline because my daughter had just turned 18 when Madeline was born, and she was in active addiction and struggling. I'm not going to give away too much of her story. That's hers to share, but there was significant trauma involved in her teenage years, and it led to an opiate addiction. So, we did, actually, I'll be honest, I did one of the hardest things ever and said, I'm going to court to take custody of Madeline, and either you're with me or you're not,
And I was right by your side from day one.
I'm good at ultimatums like that. I'm doing this. Either you come along for the ride or I'm just going. So life started with Madeline, and we went from doing okay financially and me working and bringing in really good money at the restaurant that I worked at to barely being able to work because of Madeline's care and all of her medical needs. I spent an average of a week out of every month or more at Children's Hospital in Milwaukee. That was 7.5 hours away from home, with younger children still at home. And it caused a lot of financial hardship. I mean, at one point, we were ready to lose our house. It was going to go into foreclosure. And neither one of us is good about asking for help. So we never said a word to anybody. We did we'll figure it out. We always do.
And we did.
Yeah. And then some very unexpected angels showed up at our door with some money to
make sure
help
we saved
us
our
out.
house.
And they didn't know. I don't know if they ever knew that, but now they know if they're listening.
Right.
They saved our house, and that started our journey with Maddie Tabs and the Pinaga Project that we did in the UP, helping families.
Kind of a precursor to what we're doing now.
Right, yeah. Well, homelessness isn't really a thing where we're from because you would die in a snowbank because
Right.
it's so much snow all the time, hence why we don't live there anymore.
Right.
So, we helped families any way we could with furniture, with clothing, with toys, with food. I guess it's always been kind of ingrained in us because,
That's what you do. You help who you can, when you can, and how you can.
Yeah. After 8 emergency medical flights in 2 years, is when I said we need to move to Wisconsin because we need to be closer to children's. I couldn't do it anymore. Madeline was, how old was she? 4
Yeah.
at the time. And that started our journey. It took us another year and a half, but we ended up in Sheboygan. Everybody thought we were crazy. Sold everything, fell in love with the lakefront.
Had to be by the lake.
When we would come down to Children's for appointments for about 4 months before we moved, not quite 4 months before we moved, we would adventure around to all the places that had water because, you know, we were always by Lake Superior. So had to be by water and fell in love with the lakeshore in Sheboygan and didn't know anybody, didn't have jobs, didn't nothing, and sold everything we owned, sold the house, packed the U-Haul.
And here we are.
And it'll be 9 years the end of July.
Right.
I couldn't wait. I have to say, I couldn't wait to live where nobody knew who I was.
And how'd that work for you?
We're from such a small area. No matter where you went, somebody knew who you were. Oh, I know your dad. I know, you know, hubby played in a rock band for 20 years. There was no going anywhere without somebody knowing who you were. So I couldn't wait to live in a place where nobody knew who I was. And now I go to Walmart or the gas station or the grocery store and I hear, that's the pay it forward lady, when people are whispering when they walk by.
Right.
Or they come up and say, you know, I know you don't know who I am, but I love what you do.
I follow you on Facebook.
Right.
You know, I keep
Right.
tabs on everything you're
So,
doing.
you know,
Like, all right, thanks.
that little part of our life didn't work out so great, but, you know, that's all right. I'm good with that.
We definitely went through some rough patches. And I think people who see us now might not realize exactly where we came from or who we are.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to start out with us here and kind of give everybody the idea of our background and how this came to be. There was a moment all of this shifted. You know, we came here, we didn't know anybody. Do you remember when the idea of Pay It Forward started? How did this come about?
Oh my God. December 13th of 2020. I think I was in the bedroom doing some homework. I was doing my life and health coaching certification then, I think, or I don't know. I was working on something. But I came out and hubby looks at me and says, oh, I just did something I think I might need your help with. And I was like, oh, gosh.
Typical wife responses. What did you do?
Yeah, what did you do now? And he says, I started a Facebook page. And I'm like, and? What about it?
Right.
And he says, you know, it's called Pay It Forward. Because all the COVID crap was going on. And he said, I want to put those in need in touch with those who have, and vice versa, in strictly a pay it forward way. Just people being kind, sharing kindness. And I was like,
Okay.
We'll see what this does.
And now, mind you, at this point, we hadn't been here that long, a couple years. We were still at the point nobody knew who we were. I didn't figure it was ever going to do anything. I figured, you know, it's not, you know, we're just average Joes. They're probably wondering, you know, who are we?
Yeah, well, by December 23rd, we had somehow rallied through that little Facebook page and provided Christmas for 9 families with 28 children, and 7 of those families included the entire meals right down to the stick of butter to go in the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And I did all that shopping and I did all that running and I was working. And at that point, there was already over 400 people in the group. And I remember looking at them on the 23rd after we had delivered everything. And I just looked at him and said, you may need my help. Excuse me.
Well, you know, things kind of blew up a little bit, but in a good way.
But we were very quickly... it was very quickly brought to our attention, like immediately, the unhoused population in Sheboygan and the help that they needed. Yeah, or lack thereof. You know, and we like to learn lessons the hard way. So I own that to everybody. Obviously, I'm owning it here. I learn lessons the hard way. So,
I didn't realize there was any other way.
right? Well, and I have to learn them like 6 times before I'm like, okay, that's true.
Right.
That's true. I'm not going to get a
Takes a
different
little while
outcome.
to sink in.
Yeah, I'm not going to get a different outcome. So that's true. We overextended ourselves. We put
A lot.
yeah, I still do that. We put people in hotels. We provided items. We took people into our home. That was a one and done. We learned that lesson very quickly.
That was almost that was definitely a lesson learned.
Yes. So then we slowly started critiquing what we do and figuring out what we
fine-tuning.
want it to look like.
Yep.
And then I think it was February, Abby Reese, I love you, Abby Reese, she invited me to a housing coalition meeting. And Santino Laster came on the housing coalition meeting and said he had gotten the Roca room opened up for our peers experiencing homelessness, so they could come in and eat in the middle of the freezing weather, and they didn't have to go outside. And he's like, but they don't have food. And
So
here you
of course,
get me, first one in this meeting. I'm like, we'll help. I'll ask on our
put a post out
Facebook
on a page.
I'll put a post out on our page. And next thing you know,
And so it begins.
right? Next thing you know, it went from 10 bag lunches a week to the assembly line of 250 plus sandwiches a week and granola bars and all the items, and then the hygiene items.
I got to say, though, we had that down to a science. We had an assembly line on our kitchen counter. We had it mastered.
And I will say, we had somebody who initially started out helping us with that, and lessons learned.
Went rogue.
Yeah, lessons
For lack
learned.
of a better term.
We're super grateful for what they did at
Yes.
that time, though.
Yes.
Very grateful for what they did. Still, I'm very grateful.
It helps shape
For it.
who we are and what we've become at this point.
Yes, very much so. So, I'm grateful for what they did for us and
Yes.
our organization and our peers.
And the connections they help build.
Yes. Yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
I mean, obviously we parted ways, but everything happens the way it's supposed to, whether we understand that or not.
Right. And in its time.
Yes. So, enough on that. I just wanted to make sure to get that gratitude out there.
Awesome.
We ended up moving from the library because things grew
And
and grew,
Yes.
and it wasn't the appropriate place anymore.
it was not.
For us to be doing that.
COVID restrictions were lifting.
Yeah.
More and more people were coming back to the library. And at risk of sounding terrible, they didn't want to see our peers hanging around the library all
Oh,
the time.
exactly. And when you had a table with all that stuff, and yeah, it's
It
a
takes
lot.
up a lot of room.
Yeah. So then the opened their door for us and shared space with us for a year and a half. We'd go there for an hour a day, Monday through Friday, and hand out snacks and lunches and all of that. That's where the need was proven for the community cafe, and we helped in that process of getting the community cafe started, which I'm super grateful for because it's there for our peers and for other community members
Right.
that we didn't serve.
Oh, it's been a huge asset to the
Yeah,
community.
it's a huge asset to the community. So, I'm super grateful to Liz for taking the initiative to get that started and for making it what it is now. And, for Donna managing it since it started. Happy retirement, by the way, if you're listening, Donna. And it's nice to see that will continue in our community because it's a much needed resource.
Yes. So we never thought it'd become a day center, but the need was screaming, essentially.
Yeah.
People were cold, they were outside, they had nowhere to go, and nobody was stepping up. So we did. What does this place, the day center, mean to you?
Oh my goodness. This day center, anybody who comes in and sees us knows this day center is my heart and soul.
Absolutely.
I'm going to cry already.
That's all right.
With not being open right now, because for anybody who's not listening, the space that we've been in for the last year and a half, the city condemned the building. So we had 30 days notice to clean your shit out and move on.
Right.
So now I'm back to doing the outreach that I was doing prior to our center opening.
That we were trying to avoid. Because
I'm doing the outreach that the very first thing I said when we got the notice was, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that. It's exhausting. I can't do that. Well, guess what? I'm doing it anyway.
And it's taking over our garage. It's taking over our basement. Just like...
And the store, well...
Kind of full circle.
No, it's not taking over our basement like
no,
it was.
no.
Not at all. But
it brings us right back to our roots, right back where we started.
Yeah. We were just out on Friday. I was running errands Friday, and I was meeting with peers and had a meeting and getting all the things done. And I received a message from a local company, thank you, Sheboygan Paper Box. They had a retirement party or luncheon or something. Anyway, they had leftovers, and they reached out to me, and so I booked over there and picked them up, and then went and got some takeout containers and greeted hubby after work and said, all right, we have to heat this all up. And we packaged up a ton of complete taco meals with tacos and refried beans and rice, and got the bottled water out of the garage because it has a home there right now.
Yes.
And packaged it up, loaded it in the truck, loaded the child in the truck, and we just went tooling all over downtown until we found everybody and handed them all out.
21 full taco meals.
There is nothing more fun than showing up in an alley where there's very well-to-do community members outside taking a break from whatever dinner they have going on at one of the fancy places, and me booking down the alley going, here's your DoorDash dinner, enjoy your tacos. You get some looks, but it's all good.
And it was good, and nobody else needed to know why we were there.
No, it's none of anybody's business what we're doing, but you know what? Our friends are out there, and we're going to make sure that they're taken care of.
Whether we have a space or not, we're going to make sure that they get what they need.
Right. I think that probably sends us down a whole other rabbit hole, and I don't know if that's where you...
Well, we do have some time constraints. I don't want to drag this out and bore everybody.
It's not boring.
Oh, it isn't, I know, but all right, where would you like to go with this?
I just wanted to say, there's such a stigma when people see the unhoused, or for us, it's our peers, because they're our equals. They're people just like us. Every single person is one crisis away from experiencing homelessness. Your crisis may need to be bigger than my crisis.
I'm just a teacher. That wouldn't be much.
But, right, you're just a teacher. I don't get a paycheck for what we do. So, we have one big crisis with Madeline, and oh shit, I hope the community steps up because we're in trouble.
We'll be at the library with everybody else if you're looking for us.
Right. We'll be out there. And, and at one point that would have terrified me, and now I can just laugh because I know a whole community of loving souls who would take care of us.
Right. Well, we always say it's not perfect, it's messy, it's real, but it's honest work, and it's rooted in love.
Absolutely.
So, kind of tying off of where you were just going with that, people have no idea. What would you say to someone who has no idea what it's like to walk in the shoes of our peers?
Be kind.
Right.
Be kind. If you see somebody coming at you, and I have witnessed this myself multiple times. When we started out on Michigan Ave, I will say the landlord was awesome. Penny was amazing for giving us a chance when nobody else would give us a chance. The space was very small. We knew on day 3 that we needed a bigger boat. So, the hunt for bigger centers started on day 3. But I saw 2 sides of things. I saw a super generous community come out to support us and love us and to provide all of the things, like all of the food and all of the items and the volunteers. And I mean, we saw that side of it, that supportive side of it. But at the same time, I saw some of the nastiest people I have ever seen in my life
Yes.
on Michigan Ave while standing outside with our peers, simply smoking a cigarette. Because unless you know what my face looks like, you're not going to be able to pick me out.
Most of the time, they were dressed better than I am.
You're not going to be able to pick me out. I mean, ask my kids. My kids are all adults, but ask my kids. I'm like, they used to joke that I'm the bag lady.
The people of Walmart type things. That's she fits.
I'm like, yeah. I'm the old stereotypical bag lady when you see me in my sweats and my slippers and my oversized sweatshirt and
Right.
and something fuzzy.
And I have ripped up
something
jeans and
fuzzy on.
T-shirts and
But yeah, I experienced some of the nastiest human behavior I have ever seen in my life on that street simply because
they had backpacks.
yeah, they had backpacks or they knew that we were located right there and they were outside next to there. Right. You know, our police department was bombarded with phone calls. And you know what the biggest complaint was? They're on the sidewalk. Well, no shit, people.
Newsflash, they're allowed.
They're allowed on the sidewalk, just like you're allowed on the sidewalk,
Right.
because they are truly no different than you or I. You know, there's a stigma that comes with homelessness for addiction and I'm so tired of hearing, oh, they're all addicts and they'll hurt you and they'll come on, folks.
Those episodes are coming too.
Yeah. I'm in that center by myself all the time with our peers.
Right.
All the time.
And I've had people multiple times ask me, why do you do this kind of stuff? Why, how did you get into this? Why would you do that? And I don't hesitate to tell them some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life have been within those four walls. And I mean that. Give them a chance. Some people are very guarded. Some people, and understandably so, they get treated like garbage on the street, as we were just talking about. But once they let you into your world or their world and you really start to know who they are, they're some truly amazing people.
They absolutely are.
Their resilience, their determination, their will to keep going.
Right.
Is impressive. There's a lot of people out there that could learn a lot from our peers.
Absolutely. So yeah, back to the original question. I tend to I can talk forever.
Shiny things.
So, right? Squirrel moments. Be kind. When you see somebody downtown and they have a backpack on, because we don't have a brick and mortar center right now for them to stash their stuff, how about if you smile and say hi instead of ducking your head and booking to the other side of the street?
Or pretending you don't actually see them.
Right. Sit down, have a conversation. Because those are some of the most amazing conversations I've ever had in my life.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. We see people. That's what we do here. And this podcast is a way to continue to see people. And we're going to try to get their voices out. As I said in the description, we're not trying to speak for anybody. We're just going to give them the mic. And those episodes are coming. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I do, thinking about it, sorry, it just popped in my head. Even though we don't have the brick and mortar building right now, we are still doing the outreach lunches every Sunday. We do have a sign up on our website, SheboyganAreaPayItForward.org. We look forward to, the community stepping up, providing those lunches for us. Typically we feed 50, 60-ish people.
50 to 60.
You are welcome to hang out and serve if you'd like. You are not obligated to by any means, but our peers enjoy that when you kind of hang out, get to know them, get to talk with them. You realize they're not so bad.
Right. It's a lot of fun. And if you're athletic, you can get involved in a mean game of basketball while you're there.
Right. Right. I don't, because they'll show me up. Alrighty, so thanks for listening to this first episode of Sheboygan Stories on Housed and Unheard. If this story moved you, share it, talk about it, and keep coming back. There's so much more to hear. If you want to support the work, visit us at SheboyganAreaPayItForward.org or Sheboygan Area Pay It Forward on Facebook. Next episode, we're going to sit down with one of our peers who lives this on the streets and has the experience, probably for years, because there's quite a few of them. And it's a story that you won't forget. Until then, keep your heart open, pay it forward.